What if a skiing journey that began as a simple outdoor adventure suddenly became one of the most mysterious and controversial disappearances in history? A story that decades later still defies explanation and continues to haunt investigators and fascinate the public. Stay with me, and I will awaken your curiosity, guiding you into the depths where the unknown reveals its secrets. What if a young man described by his professors as intelligent, grounded, and full of promise, and remembered by friends as curious, adventurous, and reliable, walked out onto the frozen surface of Lake Michigan one cold February day in 1978, and then seemed to vanish into thin air, leaving behind a puzzle that has resisted every attempt at resolution? This is precisely what happened to Stephen Thomas Kubacki, a 23-year-old senior at Hope College in Michigan who loved cross-country skiing and had a reputation for academic brilliance, especially in psychology and philosophy, subjects that reflected his interest in the human condition, and who, on a winter morning near the town of Saugatuck, strapped on his skis and set off across the frozen landscape alone, never to return that day. And what followed would become one of the most enduring mysteries in American missing persons history. When he did not come home, alarm spread quickly, and search teams moved into action, scouring the shoreline and the icy lake surface, where soon they found his skis, his poles, and his backpack abandoned in the snow, a scene that raised more questions than answers, because nearby investigators discovered a clear trail of his footprints leading 600 feet out onto the frozen lake before they stopped suddenly, without any sign of broken ice, a struggle, or a return path, as if he had stepped off the earth itself, and with no body and no further clues. The official assumption was that Stephen had fallen into the icy waters and drowned, though many noted the evidence for this was thin, since there were no holes in the ice and no disturbances to indicate where he might have fallen. Still, with nothing else to go on, his disappearance was attributed to a tragic accident, and his family and friends were left to grieve quietly, while Lake Michigan claimed another name to add to its long history of drownings, shipwrecks, and vanishings, a history that gave rise to the term Lake Michigan Triangle, a region notorious for strange disappearances of planes, boats, and people, often compared to the Bermuda Triangle, and which over time has become a focal point for speculation about the unexplained. Months passed with no news, and Stephen was accepted as dead, but on May 5th, 1979, 15 months after his footprints ended on the ice, the impossible occurred, because Stephen reappeared alive in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, 700 miles away from where he had vanished, standing in a grassy field and suddenly aware that something was wrong, though he had no idea where he was or how much time had passed, until he found a newspaper and saw the date, which revealed that a year and 3 months of his life was missing. He carried with him a backpack filled with items he did not recognize and could not explain, including detailed maps charting routes to cities such as Chicago, Reno, San Francisco, Sacramento, and Utah. Handmade hitchhiking signs, a t-shirt from a Wisconsin marathon he had no memory of attending, about $40 in cash, a new pair of sneakers, and glasses that were unfamiliar to him, all of which suggested extensive travel, yet he claimed complete amnesia about the entire period, telling investigators that he had simply woken up in the field with no recollection of where he had been. Doctors examined him carefully and found no signs of trauma, no evidence of head injury, no traces of drugs or alcohol, and no indication of malnutrition or illness, noting that he was in good health despite his unexplained absence. And police interviews established that he was coherent, calm, and responsive, yet he insisted he could not recall anything from the 15 months he had been gone. Authorities attempted to retrace his movements by checking hospitals, shelters, hotels, and law enforcement records across multiple states, but no one matching his description had been recorded. No sightings were reported, and there was no paper trail of his existence during the lost year and a half, as though he had been erased from reality before reappearing suddenly hundreds of miles away. The case quickly gained attention because of its sheer strangeness, and theories soon multiplied, with some suggesting that Stephen had experienced a prolonged fugue state, a rare psychological condition in which individuals lose their sense of identity and may travel long distances without awareness, though most experts noted that such states rarely last more than days or weeks, and almost never involve a complete absence of memory spanning more than a year, making it an unlikely fit, while others speculated about abduction, whether criminal or otherwise, and more speculative voices pointed to the Lake Michigan Triangle and the many legends of paranormal forces surrounding it, invoking possibilities of time anomalies or other extraordinary explanations. Though none of these ideas were supported by hard evidence, Stephen himself provided no answers because after returning home, he chose not to speak publicly about the missing months, resuming his studies at Hope College, completing his degree, then pursuing graduate work and earning a PhD, building a professional career as a psychologist, and eventually relocating to the Pacific Northwest, where he has written on themes of philosophy, spirituality, and the human condition, but has consistently refused to elaborate on his disappearance, turning down interview requests from journalists and investigators, including well-known researchers of unexplained cases, and making clear only that he did not wish to revisit the experience, though on his personal website, he acknowledges the intense public curiosity surrounding his case and hints that he may one day address it in a memoir, a statement that has fueled further intrigue and speculation. In the years since, the story has continued to spread through books, podcasts, YouTube channels, and online forums, where countless discussions attempt to piece together the known facts, some focusing on the eerie detail of the footprints ending abruptly on the ice, others drawn to the surreal image of him reappearing in a field with belongings he did not recognize, and many noting that the most troubling feature of the case is the complete absence of evidence during the time he was gone, since in the modern world, it is extremely rare for anyone to travel for months across multiple states without leaving even the faintest trace in records, witnesses, or transactions. Yet no additional information has surfaced, and so the case remains exactly where it was in 1979, unresolved and unexplained, existing in the uneasy space between disappearance and reappearance,